Are you exhausted or disheartened with where we are currently as the nation? So in today's episode, I'm going to be looking at a few little unknown strategies that can help us with maintaining sanity and keeping our wellness intact during these unprecedented times. So today's episode isn't about who's right or wrong. It's not about politics. It's simply about humanity and allowing ourselves to rise above the toxicity that's currently going on. So be sure to stick around for today's episode where we can feel less exhausted and more empowered during some really challenging times. So number one is pausing before we respond. So what does this look like? Well, first off, if most of us are familiar with the recent happenings in Capitol Hill, you had thousands upon thousands of protesters who showed up. Some were peaceful, and there were others who allowed their anger and frustration and discontentment to overpower them that in the end ended up putting people's lives and our national security in jeopardy. Something that's absolutely unnecessary and should not be tolerated. But if we look at the past year, that over the past year, there have been so many political and social issues that we're now in a state of simmering and bubbling and boiling, where we find ourselves in a state of getting angry and overwhelmed, and it's affecting our mental wellness. Pausing before we respond is critical when it comes to our mental wellness. It has a stake in how we feel. Mental wellness during this time is critical, but it takes a concerted effort. Well, what does that exactly look like? So it's knowing that our passions, our convictions are a part of us and they're important, but it's how we respond when it comes to social media and discussions. It's taking the split second to say, is this a constructive thing that I'm adding, or is it something that's detracting and allowing ourselves to fan the flames of anger and hostility? This is a big decision that we have to make. Is this going to become a spark that ignites a flame that gets me nowhere, that doesn't change anybody's opinion? It only gets me upset and the other individual upset. This is a big one, and it's something that can be at hard times to bite our tongue. It truly is so easy to get tangled in this messy web of hostility, getting angry, and overly just mean. This takes time for us to pause, think, ask ourselves, and then choosing, do I respond or not? So I want to ask you this. Have you taken time before responding, whether that's in person, on the phone, on social media? Has this helped you when it comes to decreasing your stress and anxiety level? And if so, I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are. Moving on to number two, blocking the toxic. So whether it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, it's on a text message, a group message, your neighbor, a parent, a best friend, when it comes to comments and statements that are being made right now, it has the ability to get our blood to boil and put us in an emotionally not good place. Negative toxicity can be attached to these things that can also really kind of reduce our faith in humanity. So right now, unlike any other time in history before, there is a relevance in taking the time to take a step back and reevaluating things within your own life. The people that you are allowing yourself to have contact with, whether a big one is social media or in person. Some things we can control and other things we can't. But the toxicity radar has to be something that we hold as a priority. Letting somebody know, I'm creating boundaries. These things that we're having discussions about, politics is off limits. Or these things that you're talking about, I don't agree with. We're not going to go there. There is the power and ability on social media to unfriend someone, to block someone, to hide their comments where they don't even know that you don't see what they're posting. These things, toxic triggers is what I'm going to call them. We have more control than we often realize. It's creating boundaries. I'm now blocking the toxic. I'm not allowing these things to come in. And part of that is that we have the ability to take a break from social media. It could be getting off of Twitter. It could be I'm taking a 30-day break from Instagram or from, these social media posts that I'm seeing every day on Facebook. You need to do what's best for you. That could be, the first hour that I'm awake and the hour before I go to sleep. I'm not on my phone. I'm not on my laptop. I'm not listening to anything. I'm doing something that's constructive and positive and filling for myself. It's so easy to be disheartened. So easy. But realizing that change can start today. And change can start within us that has the ability to have a domino effect. If we look at the big picture and where everything is right now, we can get truly simply overwhelmed in just a few moments. But when we take a step back and realize the beauty of being able to have the ball in our own court. And change starts with me. Our nation is better than how we've been demonstrating things recently. We can do better, and that change begins with us. So I'm going to give you a few examples, because what does this look like? Well, it starts with us in the way of whether it's patience, pausing and thinking before we speak, before we respond, lending a smile, big one right now, taking the time to make eye contact with somebody. These might seem kind of trivial. They're massive when it comes to our state of our mental wellness. Feeling a connection that doesn't involve politics, that doesn't involve our social climate, but the aspect of simply humanity, connecting with another human being, is critical right now. It's the ability to squelch hatred with kindness, the ability to extend ourselves in ways that don't always necessarily require words. And it's also reminding ourselves that we don't need to feed into this, but we have the ability to dismantle the negativity with kindness and compassion. A few vital ingredients right there. So when it comes to our own mental wellness and sanity, having it going on a long-term basis, it's kind of setting these standards where it's allowing ourselves to pause before we respond, whether that's verbally or whether that's online. It's guarding ourselves from things that are toxic, weighing relationships and saying, where do I need to incorporate boundaries? And change does begin with us. And I believe when we begin looking internally and we allow ourselves to make these decisions, it has a ripple effect that affects people within our own family, our neighborhoods, and our community. And that is an amazing thing. And if you're looking for ways to continue to strengthen your mental wellness, I'd encourage you to check out this video. And if you enjoyed today's video, I hope you'll hit the like button and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, my friends.